Most people think rich people are ahead because they earn more money. And yes, earning more helps. It's hard to build anything without income. But that explanation is like saying the reason a tree is tall is because it had water. True, but not complete. Because two people can earn the same amount for years and end up in completely different financial worlds. One becomes calmer, freer, and more secure. The other feels like they're constantly one unexpected bill away from stress. So the real difference isn't only income, it's what happens after the money arrives. Money is not wealth, money is potential. Like flour, eggs, and butter on a kitchen counter. Some people accidentally make a mess, some people make a cake. The ingredients are the same. What changes is what you do with them. Wealthy people tend to have a system for money. They don't always call it that, and it doesn't have to be complicated, but it's a system. Most people don't have a system. Most people have a feeling, and feelings are expensive because if your financial plan is mostly based on mood, how stressed you are, how motivated you feel, how tired you are, what your friends are buying, your money will behave like your emotions. Unpredictable, inconsistent, sometimes brilliant, often chaotic. Wealthy people try to remove chaos. Not because they're robots, but because they understand something simple. The goal is not to make one perfect money decision. The goal is to make good decisions repeatable. And repeatable decisions compound. Let's start with the biggest shift. Wealthy people think in terms of allocation. Most people get paid and think, what do I need to pay? And then, what do I want? Rich people get paid and think, where should this go? That's a different question, because what do I want pulls you toward spending. Where should this go pulls you toward building, and building is what wealth is. A simple way to picture it. Imagine you're managing a small company called Your Life Limited. Every month revenue comes in, your paycheck, your side income, whatever it is. Now you decide where the revenue goes. Most people run their company like this. Pay bills, spend what feels good, save or invest if there's anything left. But if there's anything left is a weak strategy, because life always finds a way to use the leftovers. You don't even have to be irresponsible. Normal life will do it for you. The car needs tires. Someone invites you to a wedding. Your phone suddenly slows down. Your brain says, you've had a hard month, you deserve this. Wealthy people often flip the order, pay essentials, pay themselves, investing/saving automatically. Then enjoy what's left without guilt. It's not about living like a monk. It's about paying the future version of you before you pay the present version of you. Because the present version of you is emotionally persuasive. The future version of you is quiet. The future version of you never shows up to beg for attention. But it's the version that has to live with the results. Now let's talk about what they do next. They buy assets. Assets is one of those words that sounds like it belongs in a finance textbook, but it's simple. An asset is something that tends to put money into your life later. A business, investments like stocks or index funds, real estate, even intellectual property like a book, a course, software, or content that earns over time. The opposite of assets is what most people buy, things that feel like progress but don't produce anything later. That doesn't mean you can't buy nice things. It means you should understand what category you're buying. Here's the easiest way to understand it. Assets are like employees. They can work even when you're asleep. Expenses are like pets. They can be lovely, but they need feeding forever. Most people accidentally build a zoo. Wealthy people build a team. And the psychology behind this is important. Buying assets is not always exciting. In fact, early investing is famously boring. No one claps when you buy an index fund. There's no new car smell. No friend says, wow, look at your diversified portfolio. People do not gather at parties to admire your emergency fund, which is why most people don't do it consistently. Wealthy people tend to value boring progress. They understand that the most powerful money moves often don't give immediate emotional rewards. Now here's a major behavior that wealthy people repeat. They prioritize ownership. They want to own pieces of systems. Think about everyday life. Every day people buy food, pay for phones, pay for housing, pay for entertainment, pay for insurance. Money flows constantly through businesses. Wealthy people position themselves to own part of those flows. Not necessarily by starting companies, sometimes yes, but often through investing. And this is where a simple universal idea matters. Even if you don't know everything about finance, you can understand this. If you can't own the whole machine, own a small piece of many machines. That's one reason broad index investing is so powerful. It's a simple way to participate in the growth of many businesses without needing to pick winners like you're betting on horses. Now, another thing wealthy people do, they focus on cash flow and net worth, not just income. Income is what you make. Net worth is what you keep and build. You can have high income and low net worth if you spend everything. You can have moderate income and high net worth if you invest consistently. Wealthy people track the scoreboard that matters. Net worth is simply what you own, assets, minus what you owe, debts. This sounds basic, but it changes behavior. If you check your net worth every month or every quarter, you start making different choices. You start noticing patterns. You start seeing whether your lifestyle is growing faster than your wealth. Most people only track their bank balance, which is like judging your health by checking if you're sweating today. It's not a full picture. Now here's an underrated wealthy habit. They think in percentages, not just amounts. Most people say, I don't have enough to invest. Wealthy people ask, and what percentage can I invest consistently? Because consistency beats intensity. Even if you invest a small percentage, if it happens automatically every month, it becomes part of your identity. And identity is what keeps habits alive. People don't stick to things because of information. They stick to things because of identity. When you become the kind of person who invests every month, it stops being a question. It's just what you do, like brushing your teeth. Wealthy people don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. Motivation is like Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it disappears when you need it most. Systems are like a wired connection, not exciting, but reliable. Now let's go deeper into something people misunderstand. Wealthy people don't necessarily take more risk. They often take smarter risk. Most people hear risk and think danger. Wealthy people think calculated probability. They try to avoid single point of failure situations, where one mistake ruins everything. They spread risk. They diversify. They avoid putting all their hopes into one fragile plan. A lot of people do the opposite. They buy one expensive thing on debt that locks them into needing a certain income forever. That's not wealth building. That's building a cage. Wealthy people prefer flexibility. Flexibility is a form of safety. If you can adapt, you survive. Now, one of the biggest differences, rich people protect what they build. Most people focus only on growth. How do I make more money? Wealthy people ask, how do I avoid losing money? Because losing money hurts more than gaining money feels good. That's human psychology. So they think about protection. They build emergency funds. They avoid high interest debt. They get appropriate insurance. They don't let one disaster wipe them out. An emergency fund is not exciting. It's not optimized, but it's a shock absorber for life. Without shock absorbers, every bump in the road damages the car. With shock absorbers, bumps are just bumps. Most financial stress comes from being fragile. Wealthy people aim to be resilient. Now let's talk about debt in a practical, universal way. There are two types of debt. Consumer debt buys things that don't produce income. Productive debt buys things that can produce income or long-term value. Consumer debt is like paying tomorrow for yesterday's fun. Productive debt is like borrowing tools to build something. But here's the key. Even productive debt can be dangerous if you don't manage it. Wealthy people often ask, what is the worst-case scenario? Can I still survive if income drops? What happens if interest rates rise? Do I have cash reserves? They don't just assume things will work out. They plan for when they don't. Most people don't fail because they're stupid. They fail because they planned only for the best case. Wealthy planning is often about surviving the worst case. Now another major difference. Wealthy people understand the power of time. They think in decades. Most people think in weeks. If you invest and check results every week, you will emotionally sabotage yourself. You'll panic at drops, chase hype, sell at the wrong times, and buy after things already went up. Wealthy people try to build patience as a skill because compounding needs time the way cooking needs heat. If you keep opening the oven every minute to check the cake, you don't get a better cake. You get a sad cake and a lot of anxiety. Compounding is slow, then fast. At first, investing feels pointless. It's like pushing a snowball when it's tiny. It barely grows. But over years, it becomes noticeable. Over decades, it becomes powerful. Most people quit too early because they mistake slow for not working. Wealthy people respect slow. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable but real. Lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is when your spending rises each time your income rises. So you never actually build wealth. It's a silent trap. You don't feel irresponsible. In fact, you feel like you're improving your life. And you are. But if your expenses rise at the same speed as your income, your future stays fragile. You end up with a nice life that is expensive to maintain. And expensive lives require constant effort. Wealthy people tend to delay lifestyle upgrades, especially early on. They might still upgrade, but they do it intentionally. They ask, if I buy this, what does it cost me long term? Not just the price tag, the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is simply what you give up by choosing one thing over another. If you spend $500 per month on something, it's not just $500, it's $500 that could have been invested monthly for years. And that can become a large number. Now here's something wealthy people often do that sounds small but changes everything. They separate status spending from value spending. Value spending is spending that improves your life meaningfully. Status spending is spending meant to impress others or signal success. Wealthy people reduce status spending, not because they're humble saints, but because they know status is a game with no finish line. There will always be someone with a bigger house, a newer car, a more expensive watch. If you play that game, you will always feel behind. And feeling behind makes people spend. So wealthy people often step out of that game. They measure progress differently. They might enjoy nice things, but they don't build their identity on them. Now, taxes, universally. Across many countries, the tax system often favors ownership and long-term investing more than salary income. This isn't a conspiracy, it's how many systems are designed. Investment and business activity is encouraged. Wealthy people learn the rules. They don't have to be tax experts, but they understand the basics. Different income types may be taxed differently. Some accounts or structures have tax advantages. Long-term investing often has benefits compared to short-term trading. Certain expenses can be deducted for businesses. The point is not to avoid taxes illegally. The point is to stop being unaware, because ignorance is expensive. Even knowing a few basics can improve outcomes over decades. Now let's get even more practical. What do wealthy people actually do with their money step by step? Here is a simple, universal, rich behavior sequence you can copy, even at a normal income. Step 1, stabilize your base. Before you try to build wealth, make sure you're not financially fragile. Build an emergency fund, start small if you need to. Reduce high-interest debt as priority. Keep your monthly fixed expenses reasonable. Get basic protection, insurance appropriate for your life. This is like building a foundation. Without it, every financial plan is built on stress. Step 2, automate investing. Wealthy people like automation because it removes emotion. Pick a percentage that is realistic, even if it's 5% to start. Make it automatic. If you can increase later, great, but the habit is more important than the starting amount. Step 3, build ownership gradually. Ownership can start very small. A simple example is investing consistently in broad diversified funds, or if you're entrepreneurial, reinvesting in skills or a small business. The key is that some of your money is going into something that can grow without you working every hour for it. Step 4, increase income without increasing lifestyle equally. This is where wealth accelerates. When income rises, keep lifestyle increases smaller than income increases. If you get a raise, don't give the entire raise to your lifestyle. Give a portion to investing. Over time, your assets grow and your dependence on income weakens. Step 5, protect and diversify. As your wealth grows, protection matters more. Diversify investments. Avoid all-in decisions. Keep liquidity so you can handle surprises and seize opportunities. Now, another thing wealthy people do, they keep money ready for opportunities. This is liquidity again. A lot of people invest everything and keep no cash. Then, when something goes wrong, they sell investments at a bad time. Wealthy people try not to be forced sellers. They hold enough reserves so they can make decisions calmly. Calm decisions are usually better decisions. Now let's talk about what wealthy people do psychologically that most people don't. They delay gratification, yes, but more importantly, they delay identity gratification. Most people want to feel successful now. Wealthy people are willing to look average while they build. This is hard because humans are social creatures. We don't just want to be secure. We want to feel respected, but respect from spending is rented respect. It disappears when the spending stops. Real financial confidence comes from knowing your life is stable. It comes from the quiet feeling of being okay. And wealthy people chase that feeling, not applause. Now let's talk about the rich mindset, but make it real and actionable, not motivational. A useful mindset shift is stop asking, how do I get rich? And start asking, How do I become hard to break financially? Because getting rich sounds like a moment. Becoming financially strong sounds like a process, and processes are repeatable. A financially strong person can handle a surprise expense, can go through a job change without panic, can invest consistently, can avoid bad loans, can wait for good opportunities, can say no when something feels wrong. That's real power. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what should I do with my money specifically? Here are clear, universal actions that most people can apply. 1. Pay off high-interest debt like it's an emergency. High-interest debt is one of the few guaranteed losses in personal finance. If you have debt with very high interest, paying it off is like getting a risk-free return equal to that interest rate. That's powerful. 2. Build a basic emergency fund. Even 1 month of expenses helps. Then build toward a few months. This doesn't make you rich, but it makes you stable. And stability is the platform for wealth. 3. Start investing consistently. Not perfectly, consistently. If you try to time the market as a beginner, you'll usually end up buying high and selling low because your emotions will be driving. Consistency beats guessing. 4. Keep fixed expenses under control. Fixed expenses are the silent danger. A life with high fixed expenses is a life that needs constant income. A life with manageable fixed expenses is flexible. Flexibility reduces stress and increases options. 5. Increase your earning power. Wealthy people invest in skills. Skills increase income. Income increases investing power. This is not glamorous, but it's real. Your best early investment might be learning something valuable that increases your income. 6. Track net worth quarterly. Not daily, not obsessively. Quarterly is enough. Tracking shows whether you're building or just surviving. 7. Separate fun money from future money. This is a psychological trick that works. Give yourself guilt-free spending money, but keep it limited and planned. Then invest the rest. This prevents binge spending. Now, something else wealthy people do. They avoid financial traps that look normal. For example, buying the maximum house the bank will approve. Because approvals don't measure comfort, they measure risk tolerance for the bank. Financing expensive cars that absorb future investing ability. Upgrading lifestyle too early before assets are established. These aren't moral issues. They're math issues. Wealthy people respect math. Now let's bring it all together with one final calm truth. Wealth is not built by one big decision. It's built by a series of small decisions that point in the same direction. And that direction is usually build stability, build ownership, grow patiently, protect intelligently, spend intentionally. So now you know what wealthy individuals tend to do differently, not secretly, not magically, not because they're better, but because they treat money like a tool that must be directed. If you start acting like this, slowly, consistently, your financial life changes, not overnight, but over time in a way that becomes undeniable. And one day, if you stick with it long enough, this video will stop feeling like it's about rich people. It'll feel like it's about you. If you like this content and you want more practical finance explained simply, subscribe. And in the comments, tell me, what's your financial goal this year? I will read them and I'm genuinely curious. I'll see you in the next one.